Everly stood in the bustling lobby of the sleek office building, her heart racing. Today marked her first week at the firm, and she aimed to make a lasting impression. The air buzzed with the hum of conversations and the clatter of heels on polished floors. She adjusted her blazer, a deep navy that contrasted against her fair complexion, and took a deep breath. This was her chance to shine. Navigating office politics felt daunting. The corporate world was a maze of alliances and unwritten rules, and she was still figuring out where she fit in. Her boss, Nathaniel Hart, commanded attention effortlessly. At 48, he exuded an aura of authority that made even the most seasoned employees tread carefully around him. Everly had heard whispers about his demanding nature. People either revered him or feared him. As she stepped into the elevator, she hoped today would be different. The doors slid shut, sealing her inside with Nathaniel, who entered just moments after her. He wore a tailored suit that emphasized his tall frame and sharp features. She offered a polite smile, but he remained focused on his phone, fingers tapping away at something urgent. The elevator lurched unexpectedly and came to an abrupt halt between floors. The lights flickered for a moment before stabilizing. Everly's stomach dropped as she glanced at Nathaniel, who looked up from his device with an expression that blended annoyance with concern. "Great," he muttered under his breath. "Is this common?" Everly asked, trying to break the tension. He sighed heavily. "Not usually." His voice was low but carried an edge of frustration. They stood in silence for a few moments that felt like hours. Everly could sense the weight of the situation pressing down on them both. She shifted nervously from one foot to another while stealing glances at him. The confined space began to feel stifling. "How's your first week going?" he asked suddenly, breaking the silence as he leaned against the wall. She hesitated before answering. "Challenging but exciting," she replied carefully. "I'm still learning." Nathaniel nodded slowly as if weighing her words. "It can be overwhelming at times," he said thoughtfully. Everly sensed a shift in his demeanor. There was something more personal behind those piercing blue eyes than mere professionalism. She felt drawn to him in an unexpected way, an impulse she didn't quite understand but couldn't ignore either. Just then, the elevator jolted again before settling into silence once more. The lights flickered again briefly before dimming slightly. They were trapped without any immediate help in sight. "Great," Nathaniel said again with a hint of sarcasm lacing his tone. Everly chuckled softly despite herself. Humor seemed like an odd response given their predicament, but it lightened the atmosphere just enough for her to breathe easier. "Do you think we'll be stuck here long?" she asked tentatively. He shrugged slightly as he pulled out his phone again only to find no signal, just like hers had been for some time now. "Who knows? It's usually pretty quick." As minutes passed in uncomfortable silence punctuated by occasional attempts to pry open doors that would not budge, Everly felt an inexplicable connection growing between them. A bond forged not just by circumstance but by vulnerability shared in this closed space. "I don't often get trapped with my employees," Nathaniel finally admitted after several minutes had dragged by without any sign of rescue or movement from above or below them. "Guess I'm lucky then?" Everly replied playfully, trying to keep things light even though anxiety clawed at her insides. He chuckled softly at that before falling quiet once more as if lost in thought about something deeper than their current situation or even work itself, something personal perhaps. "What do you do outside of work?" he asked suddenly after what felt like ages had passed since their last exchange, a genuine curiosity shining through now rather than mere politeness or obligation on his part. "I enjoy exploring Portland's food scene," she said eagerly. It was something close to her heart. Her love for vibrant flavors mirrored her desire for life itself beyond these stark office walls filled with spreadsheets and meetings all day long. "There's so much creativity here." His interest piqued as he leaned forward slightly, an involuntary gesture suggesting engagement rather than detachment from their surroundings. A subtle shift revealing more about both him and this moment they found themselves sharing together amidst uncertainty while trapped inside this elevator. "What's your favorite place?" he pressed further now with genuine intrigue, lighting up those striking blue eyes again. The kind that made everything else fade into oblivion temporarily until only they existed within this confined space together, surrounded by shadows cast by dim lights overhead flickering occasionally overhead above them both. "The cafe on 5th Street, Everly replied enthusiastically without hesitation, now inspired by their conversation flowing freely between them like warm coffee shared over pastries enjoyed together somewhere cozy away from all stressors outside. They have amazing pastries paired perfectly with rich coffee blends. Sounds delightful." He smiled genuinely for perhaps the first time since entering here earlier today. It transformed his entire demeanor, somehow making him seem more approachable than intimidating. Just then there was another jolt followed by sudden movement as power surged back, momentarily illuminating everything around them brightly before plunging into darkness once again, leaving only faint sounds echoing through metal walls surrounding them, both tightly pressed together, now feeling closer than ever before despite being mere colleagues previously. She could hear Nathaniel breathing deeply beside her, a rhythm matching hers, almost synchronizing perfectly, creating an unexpected harmony born out of chaos swirling around them right now. But just like that fleeting moment where everything felt possible, a sudden ding echoed, announcing arrival at their destination above, sending adrenaline coursing through veins, reminding Everly how fragile these connections could truly be when faced against reality waiting beyond those doors, looming ahead ready to pull them apart once more, leaving behind only memories forged here today, forever marked indelibly upon hearts entwined briefly within this shared experience they'd never forget. The elevator doors slid open, revealing the bustling office floor beyond. Everly stepped out, her heart still racing from the unexpected connection forged in that confined space. Nathaniel lingered for a moment, his eyes searching hers as if he too were reluctant to break the spell they had woven together. "Thanks for keeping calm," he said, his voice low and steady. "Most people would have panicked." "Just doing my job," she replied, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. The weight of their shared moment pressed heavily on her conscience. She turned away quickly, eager to escape the intensity of his gaze and the implications of what had just transpired. As she settled back into her desk, she felt the familiar rhythm of office life resume around her. Phones rang, keyboards clicked, and colleagues exchanged pleasantries. Yet everything felt different now, charged with an energy that made it hard to focus on her tasks. The day dragged on, each hour stretching longer than the last. Everly found herself distracted by thoughts of Nathaniel, the way he had looked at her in the elevator, how his presence seemed to fill every corner of that small space. She shook her head to clear it. This was dangerous territory. Her phone buzzed on her desk, pulling her from her reverie. It was a message from Jake, her partner. "Hey. You seem off today. Everything okay?" A pang of guilt twisted in her stomach as she read his words. He had always been attentive, but lately, it felt like he was noticing more than just her distracted demeanor. She typed back a quick response, "Just busy with work stuff. I'll call later." But deep down, she knew this wasn't just about work. The connection with Nathaniel stirred something inside her, a longing for excitement that had been absent for far too long. Later that afternoon, as Everly organized files in the conference room, she caught sight of Nathaniel through the glass walls of his office. He was on a call but looked up and met her gaze briefly before returning to his conversation. A flutter of warmth spread through her chest at the unspoken acknowledgement between them. When their eyes locked again after he hung up, he smiled, a small gesture filled with promise and uncertainty all at once. Everly felt herself smile back instinctively before quickly looking away. "Everly." A voice broke through her thoughts. It was Lisa from HR. "Can you come help me with something?" "Sure," Everly replied, shaking off the lingering feelings as she followed Lisa down the hall. As they worked together on some paperwork, Lisa chatted about weekend plans and upcoming events in Portland's vibrant food scene, everything from food trucks to local festivals buzzing with life and color. "You should come out with us," Lisa insisted after sharing details about an upcoming festival downtown. "It'll be fun." "Maybe," Everly said non-committally, not wanting to admit how conflicted she felt about spending time outside work when everything inside was so complicated. After finishing up with Lisa, Everly returned to her desk only to find Jake waiting for her outside the office building later that evening when she stepped out into the cool Portland air. "Hey." "Surprise," he greeted with a wide smile and a bouquet of flowers in hand. "Oh wow. You didn't have to do this," she exclaimed, touched yet uneasy under his affectionate gaze. "I wanted to remind you how much you mean to me," Jake said earnestly as they walked toward their car parked nearby, a familiar routine that felt comforting yet stifling all at once now. As they drove home together under the dusky sky painted in hues of orange and purple, Everly couldn't shake off thoughts of Nathaniel, the thrill they shared lingering like an electric charge beneath her skin despite Jake's loving gestures beside her. Dinner at home was filled with laughter and light-hearted banter as they cooked together, something they used to enjoy before life got busy, but even then it felt like there was an invisible wall separating them now, one built on secrets and unspoken desires threatening to collapse any moment. Later that night after dinner dishes were washed and put away while Jake settled onto the couch flipping through channels aimlessly trying to find something good on TV, Everly excused herself under pretense of needing some quiet time alone in their bedroom where confusion swirled within like a storm brewing just beneath surface calmness everyone else saw outside. Sitting cross-legged on their bed surrounded by pillows piled high against headboard, she pulled out her phone scrolling through messages until she stumbled upon one thread still open between herself and Nathaniel from earlier today. It made butterflies flutter wildly inside stomach again, reminding how exhilarating yet terrifying these feelings were becoming. Just then another message pinged in, "Everly?" It was Nathaniel reaching out again unexpectedly after hours passed since their encounter earlier today, his timing both thrilling yet unsettling all at once. "Hey. Sorry if I'm bothering you," came his response moments later after few seconds ticked by, feeling stretched thin across silence hanging heavy between them now despite distance separating them physically apart, still somehow connected emotionally deeper than ever before. "No worries. Just winding down after work," she typed back, cautiously unsure where conversation might lead next, knowing full well it could spiral into territory neither wanted nor needed right now. "What are you up to this weekend?" His question came through almost innocently enough, but laced underneath lay tension simmering just below surface, waiting patiently ready for spark-ignite flames burning brightly between two souls caught amidst chaos swirling around them both. Everly hesitated before replying. Thoughts raced through mind, weighing options carefully, considering implications behind every word chosen carefully, knowing consequences could ripple outward, affecting lives intertwined, forever changed if paths crossed further beyond mere professional boundaries established previously between boss-secretary dynamics held tightly bound until now unraveling slowly thread by thread. "I might check out that festival downtown." Her fingers hovered over screen contemplating next move while heart hammered loudly against ribcage, echoing uncertainty coursing through veins vividly alive, reminding how fragile balance remained, teetering precariously upon edge cliff facing unknown depths below, waiting patiently ready swallow whole anyone daring venture forth without caution exercised first. "Oh. I'll be there too," Nathaniel responded instantly, causing breath catch sharply, lungs momentarily stilled, frozen midair, realization dawning suddenly, bright illuminating darkness lurking nearby, shadows creeping closer each passing second, threatening engulf everything surrounding them both, completely unaware consequences looming ahead, waiting patiently just beyond horizon line, blurred together, fading fast away into night sky painted deep indigo blue, stretching endlessly onward, infinity beckoning forth, beckoning forth. daring anyone brave enough venture forth step closer towards unknown mysteries waiting patiently unfold themselves, gradually revealing truths long hidden, buried deep beneath layers carefully constructed, facades built over years past slowly crumbling away, revealing raw vulnerable humanity stripped bare, exposed entirely without armor, shielding hearts, souls yearning connection, desperately seeking solace amidst chaos swirling around, outside world beyond control. And then suddenly, without warning, words spilled forth unbidden, mouth opened wide, releasing truth held captive far too long, begging escape, finally breaking free from chains binding tightly together, keeping hidden desires locked away, safely protected from prying eyes watching, closely scrutinizing every movement made, carefully calculated steps taken forward, cautiously navigating treacherous terrain, fraught danger lurking everywhere, ready pounce unsuspecting prey, left vulnerable, open wounds gaping wide, begging attention, healing touch needed desperately. We kissed. The confession hung heavy between them, a moment suspended in time, filled with gravity pulling them closer yet further apart, simultaneously creating rift widening, slowly threatening swallow whole everything surrounding, both worlds colliding, crashing violently against one another, leaving destruction behind, shattered remnants, memories forged here today, forever marked indelibly upon hearts entwined briefly within this shared experience they'd never forget. A sudden vibration broke through silence again, startling both awake, jolting back, reality crashing down hard around them, ripping apart fragile connection formed moments ago, leaving nothing but echoes lingering, faint whispers fading fast into night air, drifting away far beyond reach, grasp slipping quietly, silently unnoticed, lost forever amongst stars twinkling brightly overhead, illuminating darkness surrounding two souls caught amidst turmoil, raging fiercely within, battling demons, fighting desperately reclaim control over lives, spiraling rapidly downward toward abyss unknown, awaiting patiently ready, consume anything, dare approach edge, risk falling deep, despair, hopelessness looming large, threatening engulf entirely, leaving nothing behind save shadows cast across memories, fading swiftly, disappearing completely, lost forever within depths obscured beyond sight, unseen ever again. The hum of the fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as I sat at my desk, staring blankly at the screen. The day had dragged on, each tick of the clock echoing louder than the last. I couldn't shake the memory of the elevator, the way his eyes had locked onto mine, how our lips met in that fleeting moment of vulnerability. It was a connection I never anticipated, yet it lingered in my thoughts like a haunting melody. I glanced around the office, noticing the usual chatter among colleagues. They seemed oblivious to the turmoil brewing within me. My partner had sensed my distraction lately, and I could feel his concern growing. The weight of guilt pressed heavily on my chest, making it difficult to breathe. Each time he reached for my hand or asked about my day, I felt a pang of remorse twist in my gut. Later that evening, I found myself at home with a glass of wine in hand, trying to drown out those feelings. My partner sat across from me, scrolling through his phone while watching a show we both enjoyed. His laughter filled the room but felt distant, like an echo fading away. I wanted to reach out and tell him everything, the confusion, the attraction to my boss, but fear gripped me tightly. Everly? You okay? He asked suddenly, looking up from his phone. Yeah, I replied too quickly, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach my eyes. He studied me for a moment before returning to his screen. You've been quiet lately. I'm just tired, I said, wishing it were true. As he resumed watching TV, my phone vibrated on the table beside me. I picked it up and saw a message from him, my boss, asking about an upcoming project meeting. The casual tone felt charged with unspoken tension. I hesitated before typing back a simple acknowledgement. The guilt flared again as I watched my partner laugh at something on screen. He deserved better than this confusion swirling inside me. He didn't deserve to be caught in this web of emotions that seemed beyond my control. The next day at work was no different. The air felt thick with unsaid words as I walked into the office and passed by my boss's office. He looked up from his desk and smiled, a warm gesture that sent butterflies fluttering in my stomach despite everything else weighing heavily on me. "Hey Everly," he called out as I walked by. "Good morning," I replied softly, trying to keep my tone neutral. He motioned for me to come inside. "Can we go over those reports together?" I nodded and stepped into his office, closing the door behind me, a small act that felt monumental given our circumstances. As we reviewed documents together, our shoulders brushed against each other occasionally, each touch ignited sparks that made it hard to focus on anything else but him. He was charming and attentive in ways that drew me closer despite feeling like an impending storm loomed over us both. "I appreciate your hard work," he said genuinely after we finished discussing numbers and projections. "Thank you," I replied, feeling warmth spread through me at his praise. "But Everly," his voice dropped slightly as he leaned forward on his desk, "I sense something's off with you lately." My heart raced at his concern. It was both comforting and terrifying all at once. "I'm just adjusting to everything." He studied me intently for what felt like an eternity before nodding slowly. "If you need someone to talk to." I swallowed hard, wanting desperately to confide in him but knowing where it could lead, where it had already led once before in that elevator moment. Just then, a notification pinged from my phone again, a message from my partner asking when I'd be home for dinner tonight. My stomach twisted painfully at the thought of lying again or even worse, telling him half-truths about where my mind truly wandered these days. "I need some air," I blurted out suddenly before escaping from his office into the hallway outside where fresh air could clear some of this chaos swirling inside me. Outside on the balcony overlooking Portland's skyline under a gray sky threatening rain soon enough, I took several deep breaths trying to calm down while watching people move below like ants scurrying about their daily lives without knowing what turmoil lay beneath their own surfaces too perhaps. Just then my phone buzzed again. It was another message from him. "I miss you." A wave of emotion washed over me as guilt clawed its way back up again like an unwelcome guest refusing to leave no matter how much one tried to shoo them away. What did that even mean? Did he feel what was happening between us? Or was this simply another one of those affectionate messages meant for someone else entirely? Before long though, the doors swung open behind me revealing him stepping out onto balcony catching sight of me lost deep within thoughts swirling around endlessly. "Everly," he asked hesitantly taking a step closer toward where stood leaning against railing lost somewhere between two worlds colliding fiercely together threatening everything familiar. "What if we just talked?" His voice was low enough now only meant for us alone amidst clamor outside fading into background noise surrounding us both as if nothing else mattered anymore. Something shifted within, the tension palpable between us thickening further still until finally breaking free completely when once more our lips met unexpectedly igniting flames burning brightly beneath surface hiding beneath layers built over years spent navigating life together. Apart yet intertwined somehow always connected somehow. Yet just as quickly as passion ignited, reality crashed back down hard. My phone buzzed loudly interrupting moment-shattering fragile connection formed moments ago leaving nothing but echoes lingering faint whispers fading fast into night air drifting away far beyond reach grasp slipping quietly silently unnoticed lost forever amongst stars twinkling brightly overhead illuminating darkness surrounding two souls caught amidst turmoil raging fiercely within battling demons fighting desperately reclaim control over lives spiraling rapidly downward toward abyss unknown. Awaiting patiently ready consume anything dare approach edge risk falling deep despair hopelessness looming large threatening engulf entirely leaving nothing behind save shadows cast across memories fading swiftly disappearing completely lost forever within depths. Obscured beyond sight unseen ever again. "Sorry," I muttered fumbling through messages quickly realizing partner had found something else entirely. A hint buried deep within texts exchanged recently revealing cracks forming beneath surface threatening everything built thus far. The following morning, I sat at my kitchen table staring blankly at a half-eaten piece of toast. The sun streamed through the window, illuminating the small space, but I felt trapped in shadows of my own making. My phone buzzed beside me, pulling me from my thoughts. It was a message from my boss, Mark. Can we meet for coffee later? Need to discuss the project. I hesitated. The weight of our shared night pressed heavily on my chest. We spent the night together, and now everything felt different, more complicated than before. I typed a quick reply, agreeing to meet him at the cafe down the street from the office. As I prepared for work, my mind swirled with conflicting emotions. Guilt coiled tightly around my heart every time I thought of Jake, my partner. He had been so supportive, always encouraging me to pursue my ambitions. But now that support felt like a noose tightening around my neck as I navigated this new terrain with Mark. Arriving at the office, I forced myself to focus on tasks that awaited me. The hum of conversation and clattering of keyboards provided a familiar backdrop while I tried to drown out thoughts of Mark's smile and the warmth of his touch. "Hey, Everly," one of my colleagues called out as I walked past her desk. "You look a bit distracted today." I plastered on a smile that didn't quite reach my eyes. "Just tired from last night's meeting." She nodded but didn't seem convinced. As I settled into my chair, I glanced at the clock ticking away seconds until our coffee meeting. When the clock finally struck 3, I took a deep breath and made my way to the cafe. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee enveloped me as soon as I stepped inside. Mark was already seated at a corner table, his gaze fixed on his laptop screen. "Hey," he looked up as I approached, his smile lighting up his face in a way that sent butterflies fluttering in my stomach. "Hi," I replied softly as I slid into the seat across from him. "How are you?" he asked, genuine concern etched in his expression. "Just trying to keep everything balanced," I admitted. He leaned forward slightly, lowering his voice as if sharing a secret between us. "You know it's okay to be honest about how you feel." I swallowed hard. Those words hung heavily between us like an unspoken promise or perhaps an unacknowledged truth. "It's just complicated." Mark nodded knowingly but didn't press further. Instead, he shifted topics back to work-related matters. We discussed projects and deadlines, however, beneath our professional facade simmered an undeniable tension that neither one of us could ignore. As we finished our coffees and prepared to leave, Mark reached across the table and brushed his fingers against mine, a fleeting touch that sent electricity coursing through me once more. "I'll see you tomorrow," he asked softly. "Of course," I replied with a smile that didn't quite mask the turmoil within me. The drive home felt longer than usual as thoughts raced through my mind like cars on an endless highway, thoughts of Jake and what awaited me once I walked through our front door. Jake greeted me with open arms when I arrived home. He was excited about his surprise getaway plans for us this weekend, a trip he had been organizing for months without revealing anything specific until now. "I can't wait for you to see where we're going," he exclaimed with enthusiasm that made it hard not to feel guilty for what was brewing beneath the surface of our relationship. "Sounds amazing," was all I managed to say while forcing a smile onto my face. As Jake continued talking about packing and logistics for our trip, guilt gnawed at me like an insatiable beast demanding attention, demanding honesty about who we were becoming apart from each other. That night after dinner, Jake suggested we watch one of our favorite shows together, a routine comfort amidst chaos, but even nestled together on the couch under warm blankets felt strained somehow. I couldn't shake off thoughts about Mark or how easily our connection had formed in such little time, how it had transformed into something deeper than mere attraction or infatuation. It had grown into something more profound yet equally terrifying. In those moments spent with Jake watching television while pretending everything was fine felt like living in two worlds simultaneously, one filled with warmth and familiarity while another pulled me toward unknown territory fraught with excitement yet laden with betrayal lurking just beneath its surface. Later that evening when we went to bed side by side under sheets heavy with silence rather than comfort, I lay awake staring at darkness above while grappling with choices ahead. The choice between loyalty towards someone who had always been there versus pursuing something new, exhilarating yet fraught with uncertainty lying ahead if fully embraced. The next morning came too quickly, sunlight streamed through curtains casting stripes across our room, reminding me starkly how life continued moving forward regardless of personal turmoil brewing within hearts caught amidst conflicting desires pulling them apart rather than binding them closer together. Just before leaving for work again, I noticed Jake's phone buzzing incessantly on the kitchen counter, a message alert flashing brightly against its surface demanding attention but also raising questions about secrets hidden beneath seemingly mundane exchanges between friends. Curiosity tugged insistently urging action, but guilt held firm preventing any urge toward invasion into privacy where trust should reside instead. As hours passed during workday filled with meetings blurring lines between professional obligations versus personal feelings, I found myself unable to concentrate fully knowing soon enough would come moments spent alone again facing choices needing resolution before they spiraled completely out control threatening everything built thus far. When evening approached signaling end day, I received another message from Mark asking if we could talk later tonight, a twist lurking just beneath surface waiting patiently ready consume anything dare approach edge risk falling deep despair hopelessness looming large threatening engulf entirely leaving nothing behind save shadows cast across memories fading swiftly disappearing completely, lost forever within depths obscured beyond sight unseen ever again. The days crept by, each one heavier than the last. The surprise getaway Mark had planned loomed over me like a storm cloud, threatening to burst at any moment. I sat at my desk, the glow of my computer screen illuminating the chaos in my mind. The office buzzed with the usual chatter, but I was lost in a whirlwind of thoughts. Work events were approaching fast, and they would require me to interact with my boss, Nathan, more closely than ever. I glanced at the clock. Time felt elastic, stretching and contracting as I battled with my conscience. Every time I thought about Nathan, memories of our moments together flooded back, the unexpected intimacy in that elevator, our shared secrets, and how easily we slipped into each other's lives. Yet, alongside those memories came guilt like a weight on my chest. Everly? My coworker Jenna's voice broke through my reverie. You okay? You've been awfully quiet lately. Just a lot on my mind, I replied, forcing a smile. You know how it is. Yeah, but don't forget to take care of yourself. She offered a knowing look before returning to her work. I turned back to my screen and opened the calendar app. The upcoming work event was marked in bold letters, an evening gala where Nathan would be present as well as all our colleagues. A chance for networking and mingling, a chance for Nathan and me to confront whatever this was that had developed between us. As if sensing my turmoil from afar, Nathan sent me a message, "Can we talk before the gala? There's something important we need to discuss." My heart raced at his words. What could be so important? Was he feeling the same tension between us? Or was it something more professional? I hesitated before typing back, "Sure." When? Meet me in my office at 5. The hours dragged on until finally 5 o'clock arrived. My palms were clammy as I made my way down the hallway toward Nathan's office. Each step felt like an eternity as anxiety churned within me. I knocked softly on his door and entered when prompted. Nathan stood by his desk, arms crossed over his chest, a familiar pose that both reassured and intimidated me at once. Everly, he began, his voice steady but tinged with an undercurrent of urgency. I wanted to talk about what's been happening between us. I swallowed hard as he continued, "We've crossed lines that complicate things, both personally and professionally." I know, I managed to say, feeling exposed under his gaze. He took a step closer, lowering his voice as if sharing a secret only meant for us. "I can't stop thinking about you." My heart raced again. This was what I had longed for yet feared all at once. But what about Mark? Nathan sighed heavily as if bearing the weight of both our dilemmas. What you have with him is important too, but you need to decide what you really want. I nodded slowly, grappling with emotions swirling within me like leaves caught in autumn wind, conflicted yet drawn to him in ways that felt undeniable. As we spoke further about boundaries and expectations, or lack thereof, I couldn't shake off the nagging thought of Mark waiting for me at home. How would he react if he sensed even an inkling of this connection? Would he question everything? When our conversation ended and I stepped out of Nathan's office into the bustling atmosphere of the office floor again, clarity eluded me still. Later that evening, after returning home from work, Mark greeted me with an embrace filled with warmth that momentarily soothed some of my inner turmoil. "Hey! Ready for our trip?" His enthusiasm shone bright against my inner conflict. "Yeah, just been busy," I replied vaguely while masking any signs of distress behind a forced smile. As we packed together for our getaway, the anticipation palpable, I couldn't shake off Nathan's words echoing in my mind. "What do you really want?" That night found me restless. Sleep eluded me while thoughts spiraled through every corner of consciousness like shadows refusing to settle into peace. Morning light broke through curtains when finally exhaustion took hold, a fitful sleep filled with dreams both vivid and disconcerting surrounding choices left unmade. On the day of the gala, a bright afternoon sun cast playful shadows across Portland streets. I dressed carefully, choosing something elegant yet understated, a reflection of both professionalism and personal uncertainty swirling within. Arriving at the venue felt surreal. Glimmering lights danced around while laughter echoed from all directions as colleagues mingled effortlessly amidst delicious aromas wafting through open spaces filled with vibrant energy typical of Portland's charm. Nathan spotted me across the room. His gaze held intensity that sent shivers down my spine, a mixture of excitement and dread coursing through veins simultaneously igniting sparks deep within while reminding painfully why being here felt wrong yet so right. As we moved toward each other amidst swirling conversations around us, every step seemed heavier than before. I could see questions reflected in his eyes mirroring those plaguing mine. Unspoken words hung thickly between us demanding resolution that neither dared voice aloud just yet. With drinks in hand, we found ourselves standing apart from others gathered nearby discussing work matters while stealing glances filled with unacknowledged tension swirling beneath surface. We knew something had shifted irrevocably between us since that fateful elevator encounter. Then came an unexpected interruption. A colleague approached us casually discussing project updates, but their presence served only to amplify awareness surrounding our connection, leaving unspoken truths lingering heavily upon air, suffocating any attempts at normalcy. When they finally departed, leaving silence behind, I turned toward Nathan, seeking answers hidden beneath layers carefully constructed facades built around professional decorum, but instead encountered uncertainty mirrored back from him, reflecting equally tangled emotions struggling beneath surface, threatening eruption any moment now. "I can't keep pretending this isn't happening," he said softly, breaking silence, finally cracking facade apart, revealing raw vulnerability beneath polished exterior crafted so meticulously over years spent navigating corporate waters, skillfully dodging pitfalls along way. "I feel trapped," I admitted quietly, feeling walls closing around, forcing choices upon shoulders heavy laden, burdened by decisions looming large ahead, threatening consume everything built thus far, leaving nothing behind save shadows cast across memories fading swiftly, disappearing, completely lost forever within depths obscured beyond sight, unseen ever again. Before either could respond further, the lights dimmed, signaling start program ahead, drawing attention away from personal matters pressing, urgently needing resolution, leaving hearts racing amid uncertainty still lingering thickly, air suffocating hopes, dreams nestled safely tucked away until next time. Fate decided intervene once more, ushering forth consequences unforeseen awaiting patiently just beyond horizon. The air in the office felt heavy as I sat across from my partner, Michael. He had been unusually quiet since I returned from work, and the tension between us was palpable. The surprise getaway he had planned loomed over me like a storm cloud, reminding me of the choices I had yet to make. I could sense that he was aware of the emotional distance that had grown between us, but I wasn't ready to confront it head-on. "Everly," he finally said, breaking the silence. "I've noticed you've been different lately." His voice was steady but tinged with concern. "Are you okay?" I hesitated, my heart racing as I considered how to respond. The truth felt like a weight too heavy to bear. "I'm just busy with work," I replied, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach my eyes. "You know how it can be." He studied me for a moment, his brow furrowing slightly. "It's more than that, isn't it? You've been distracted." My mind raced back to the elevator incident with my boss, Nathaniel. It was supposed to be just an awkward moment, something we could laugh about later, but it had spiraled into something far more complicated. The connection we'd formed in that confined space felt like a secret I couldn't share with anyone, not even Michael. "I promise it's nothing," I said, trying to brush off his concerns. Michael leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms over his chest. "If you say so, but just know that I'm here if you want to talk." His words hung in the air like an unspoken invitation, a chance for honesty that felt both comforting and terrifying. But even as he offered support, my mind wandered back to Nathaniel's proposal earlier that day. "Everly," he had said with an intensity that made my heart race. "I want you to lead this new project on our upcoming campaign." The excitement in his eyes was infectious. It ignited something within me that had long been dormant. "Me? But..." He cut me off gently. "You're ready for this. You have the vision we need." The weight of his faith in me felt intoxicating and overwhelming all at once. Accepting the project would mean spending more time with him, more opportunities for our connection to deepen, and yet it also meant risking everything I had built with Michael. "I'll think about it," I had replied carefully. Now, sitting across from Michael, those words echoed ominously in my mind. "Are you still thinking about taking on that project?" Michael asked suddenly. "Yes," I admitted reluctantly, feeling a knot tighten in my stomach. "You should do what feels right for you," he said softly. But there was an edge of something else, an unvoiced worry lurking beneath his calm exterior. "I will," I promised weakly, but doubt gnawed at me from within. As night fell and darkness enveloped the city outside our window, the conversation faded into silence once more. My thoughts drifted back to Nathaniel's piercing gaze, the way he seemed to see right through me and into my soul. It was exhilarating and terrifying all at once. The next day at work brought little relief from the turmoil swirling inside me. As I settled into my desk and began reviewing emails, Nathaniel approached with an air of confidence that sent shivers down my spine. "Have you given any thought to the project?" he asked casually, leaning against the doorframe of my office. I looked up from my screen and met his gaze. There was an intensity there that made it difficult to breathe properly. "I'm still considering it." "Good." He stepped inside, closing the door behind him as if sealing away any distractions from outside our bubble of tension. "I believe in your abilities more than anyone else here does." His words wrapped around me like a warm blanket but also pushed against the walls of guilt closing in around my heart. "Thank you," I managed to say as my pulse quickened at his proximity. He took a step closer, just enough for me to feel heat radiating off him, but then paused as if weighing something unseen between us. "You know," he began slowly, "this could be a great opportunity for both of us." My breath hitched slightly as I searched for words amidst the chaos inside me. How could one project hold so much potential yet threaten everything? "I understand if you're hesitant," he continued softly. There was sincerity in his tone that almost disarmed me completely. "But sometimes taking risks is necessary." His gaze lingered on mine longer than appropriate before retreating back slightly, a subtle reminder of boundaries we both knew existed yet struggled against daily. "I'll think about it," I repeated again. Each time felt heavier than before, as though acknowledging reality would solidify choices already made deep within myself without fully realizing their implications yet. As we shifted topics toward work-related matters after what felt like hours spent suspended between unsaid feelings hanging thickly around us, My phone buzzed insistently on my desk, drawing attention away from those pressing matters begging resolution, instead leading toward another layer added onto this tangled web woven around emotions spiraling out control. It was a message from Michael. "Can we talk tonight?" The urgency behind those words sent another wave of anxiety crashing over me. He sensed something wasn't right too. "Everything okay?" Nathaniel asked, casually glancing toward where my phone lay open, inviting scrutiny into private matters better left untouched under normal circumstances, yet now demanded attention, urgently pulling focus away from everything else surrounding us both. "Yes," I blurted out reflexively before calming myself down again, realizing how defensive sounded under pressure building steadily up until this point, threatening overflow completely beyond control if not addressed properly soon enough. Nathaniel raised an eyebrow curiously but didn't press further, thankfully allowing space needed while remaining close enough, still creating tension, unyielding despite efforts made otherwise, keeping things professional, only adding complications, further complicating relationships already strained beyond recognition lately. After finishing up discussions regarding upcoming deadlines looming ahead, I excused myself briefly, needing air, desperately wanting clarity amidst confusion swirling endlessly inside head, threatening drown out rational thought entirely, leaving nothing behind save chaos uncontained, drifting adrift without direction anymore. Outside, beneath gray Portland skies filled clouds, heavy laden rain threatening pour down any moment. I took deep breaths, attempting ground myself, regain composure, lost somehow a long way, searching answers hidden somewhere buried deep within layers, shielding truths waiting patiently reveal themselves when least expected, most likely. But as thoughts wandered aimlessly searching clarity, instead found only shadows lurking behind every decision made thus far, leading nowhere good. Not knowing which path would lead ultimately toward resolution desired, desperately needed before things spiraled completely out control, leaving nothing whole intact anymore. The Rose Festival buzzed with energy, the air thick with the scent of fried dough and blooming flowers. Everly moved through the crowd, her mind a whirl of confusion and guilt. The vibrant colors around her clashed with the monochrome shades of her inner turmoil. She had come here to escape, yet every laugh and cheer only amplified her anxiety about what lay ahead. She spotted her boss across the festival grounds, standing in front of a booth adorned with colorful ribbons and flower arrangements. His presence was magnetic, drawing her in despite the weight of their complicated relationship. Everly hesitated, torn between the desire to approach him and the fear of being seen by others. The festival was supposed to be a celebration, but for her, it felt like a battleground. As she approached him, she noticed how he was engaged in conversation with another employee. They laughed together, their chemistry palpable. A pang of jealousy shot through Everly as she recalled their own moments of intimacy, the stolen kisses and whispered confessions that had blurred the lines between professional and personal. "Everly," he called out when he noticed her standing awkwardly on the sidelines. "Hi," she managed to say, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Enjoying the festival?" He gestured toward a nearby food stand selling elephant ears. "Trying to," she replied, feeling out of place amidst the festivities. He stepped closer, his demeanor shifting slightly as he lowered his voice. "I've been meaning to talk to you about that project we discussed." The mention of work pulled Everly back into reality. "Sure," she said softly, hoping to keep their conversation private amidst the crowd's noise. "I need you fully committed," he stated firmly but quietly. "There are expectations now that you're part of this team." Her heart raced at his words. Was this about work or something deeper? The pressure hung heavily between them as if everyone around them had vanished into an indistinct blur. "I am committed," she said quickly, but doubt crept into her voice. He studied her for a moment before nodding slowly. "I hope so." There was something unspoken in his gaze that made her stomach churn, an expectation that went beyond just professional obligation. As they stood there, a group of coworkers passed by, laughing loudly and pulling Everly back into reality once more. She forced herself to focus on them rather than the tension building between her and her boss. "How's everything going?" one colleague asked cheerfully as they approached. "Busy as always," Everly replied, feigning enthusiasm while feeling a sense of dread wash over her at being caught in this web of lies. The conversation shifted away from work gossip to weekend plans. However, Everly could hardly concentrate on anything but the weight of what lay ahead. When they finally walked away, leaving her alone with him again, relief mixed with anxiety flooded through her veins. "Let's grab some coffee later," he suggested casually, but there was an edge to his tone that hinted at seriousness beneath his light-hearted demeanor. She nodded absently. Inside she felt torn apart by conflicting emotions, her partner's love versus this undeniable connection that had developed over time. The rest of the afternoon passed in a haze. Laughter echoed around them while Everly felt increasingly isolated within herself. She wandered through booths filled with handmade crafts and local delicacies but found little joy in any of it. Her thoughts drifted back to home where guilt loomed large, her partner waiting patiently for clarity she wasn't sure how to provide. As evening fell over Portland's skyline painted orange by sunset hues, Everly decided it was time to leave before darkness settled too deeply within her heart as well. Just as she turned to walk away from the festival grounds toward public transport homeward bound, a familiar voice called out again behind her. "Everly." She paused mid-step and turned slowly. It was him again, his expression unreadable yet intense enough that it sent shivers down her spine. "I need you to understand something," he said firmly, now stepping closer again until there was barely any space left between them. A stark contrast against all those cheerful faces bustling about nearby, obliviousness surrounding them like an invisible bubble formed only for two people caught up within this tension-filled moment together alone. "What is it?" Her voice trembled slightly despite herself, anticipation coiling tightly inside like a spring ready to snap at any moment if released too suddenly. "I don't want our relationship muddled by uncertainty anymore." His words were heavy with implications hanging thick in air around them, both like smoke from distant fireworks lighting up night sky above. Her heart raced again, but not just from anxiety this time. Excitement bubbled beneath surface, threatening break free if allowed too much space without constraints, holding back tightly wrapped emotions buried deep down inside, waiting patiently until now finally unleashed. "And what does that mean?" she dared ask despite knowing full well what could follow next, a path fraught dangers ahead where choices made would forever alter lives intertwined forevermore. "It means I want you on my side completely, no more half measures or secrets." He stepped even closer still until their breaths mingled together, almost tasting each other's hopes, fears, desires lingering unsaid just beneath surface, waiting patiently for opportunity arise when least expected, most likely. Everly swallowed hard, trying catch breath, lost somewhere, lost within whirlwind thoughts spiraling dangerously close, edge cliff facing unknown depths below, threatening swallow whole everything whole intact anymore. Before she could respond, a sudden commotion erupted nearby, drawing attention away, momentarily breaking tension, holding both captive, suspended time itself frozen around them. A loud crash echoed through festival grounds, followed by gasps from startled attendees gathering nearby, drawn toward source noise, curious eyes wide open, searching answers hidden somewhere buried deep within layers, shielding truths waiting patiently reveal themselves when least expected, most likely. In an instant everything shifted. Their connection faltered under pressures mounting all around, pulling apart threads woven tightly together, unraveling quickly, leaving nothing whole intact anymore. "What just happened?" Everly asked breathlessly, glancing toward chaos unfolding before them, both unable shake, feeling something significant shifted irrevocably forevermore. He shook his head, frowning deeply, uncertain about implications swirling all around, unaware consequences looming ever closer, threatening engulf everything whole, leaving nothing else behind except shadows lingering, faint memories once shared between two souls entwined, now caught midst storm raging outside control, threatening sweep away all remnants once cherished, held dearly close forevermore. Everly stepped back, her heart racing as the weight of her partner's discovery pressed down on her. The message was right there on the screen, a glaring reminder of the choices she had made. She could almost hear the echoes of their laughter from that night at the Rose Festival, a stark contrast to the silence now filling the room. The vibrant colors of Portland felt muted, dulled by the reality of her situation. "What is this?" he demanded, his voice steady but laced with hurt. She could see the betrayal etched across his face, a mixture of confusion and anger brewing beneath the surface. "It's not what it looks like," she stammered, scrambling for words that would somehow bridge the chasm that had opened between them. But deep down, she understood there was no easy way out of this. "Not what it looks like," he echoed incredulously, holding up her phone as if it were evidence in a trial. "You think I'm going to believe that? You've been distant for weeks, Everly. I thought we were working through things." She took a step forward, but he held up a hand to stop her. "No. Don't come any closer." The pain in his eyes cut deeper than any accusation he could throw at her. "You need to tell me what's really going on." Everly felt an overwhelming urge to confess everything, the moments in the elevator, their shared glances in meetings, how she had let herself be swept away by something so intoxicating yet so wrong. But how could she articulate that? How could she explain how she had found herself tangled in emotions that threatened to unravel everything? I got caught up in something," she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Something I never meant to happen." "Caught up," he scoffed bitterly. "You're having an affair with your boss. You think that's just getting caught up?" The accusation hung heavy in the air between them. Everly's mind raced as she tried to find a way to defend herself without sounding like she was making excuses. Each moment felt like an eternity as they stood there locked in this painful confrontation. "I didn't mean for it to go this far," she admitted finally, tears welling in her eyes. "I never wanted to hurt you." "And yet here we are," he replied coldly, turning away from her as if he couldn't bear to look at her anymore. The silence stretched between them like an unbridgeable gap filled with all their unsaid words and unfulfilled promises. It was suffocating. "Do you love him?" he asked suddenly, his voice low and strained. There it was, the question that would define everything moving forward. Did love even factor into this twisted mess? What was love when weighed against desire and ambition? Everly hesitated too long before answering. It felt like betrayal either way. "I don't know," she finally whispered. He turned back sharply, disbelief etched across his features. "You don't know? How can you not know?" "Because everything happened so fast." Her voice rose in desperation as emotions threatened to spill over. "I didn't plan any of this. I just..." "Just what?" he interrupted harshly. "Enjoyed being with someone who isn't me? Someone who makes you feel special while I'm working my ass off trying to keep our lives together?" His words struck hard, each one resonating painfully within her chest. Everly felt trapped between two worlds, one where loyalty reigned supreme and another where excitement beckoned seductively but came at a price. "I'm sorry," she managed through clenched teeth as tears streamed down her cheeks unchecked now. "Sorry doesn't cut it," he said flatly before shaking his head dismissively and walking toward the door. "Where are you going?" Panic surged through her veins as realization hit. This could be it. This could be the moment everything changed irrevocably. "I need time," he replied without looking back before stepping outside into the hallway and closing the door behind him with finality. The sound echoed through their apartment like thunderclaps reverberating against walls once filled with laughter and love, now reduced to silence punctuated only by Everly's quiet sobs echoing off those same walls. She sank onto their couch feeling utterly alone amidst memories swirling around, a mix of regret and longing clawing at her insides, relentlessly demanding answers only time would bring clarity upon, if ever at all. As minutes turned into hours lost within thoughts spiraling endlessly through every possible outcome playing out before her eyes. A sudden ping from her phone jolted Everly back into reality, breaking through fog enveloping mind, completely unaware of consequences looming ever closer, threatening engulf everything whole, leaving nothing else behind except shadows, lingering faint memories once cherished, held dearly close forevermore. Her heart raced again as she picked up her phone, instinctively knowing who it was before even checking. The familiar name lighting up screen sent shivers down spine, sending pulse racing anew, igniting feelings long buried deep beneath layers, guilt and fear threatening swallow whole, leaving no trace behind. It was him, her boss, asking if they were still on for lunch tomorrow, an innocent enough question but laden with implications far beyond casual conversation. A reminder of choices made, intertwining lives, further complicating already tangled web spun from moments shared between them both. She stared at his message, contemplating whether or not to reply, weighing consequences against desires, fueling fire within burning bright, refusing extinguished despite turmoil raging outside, control threatening sweep away all remnants once cherished, held dearly close forevermore. A decision loomed ahead, a choice that would determine not just what happened next but also who Everly truly wanted to be moving forward. Yet uncertainty gripped tightly around heart, squeezing breath from lungs, rendering motion impossible, leaving nothing else behind except shadows, lingering faint memories once cherished, held dearly close forevermore. With trembling fingers hovering above screen, poised ready, strike keys forming words reflecting inner turmoil, battling fiercely against desires, pulling relentlessly toward unknown paths, stretching ahead, beckoning brightly, illuminated by possibilities waiting just beyond reach. Before she could second-guess herself any longer, a knock resounded sharply against door, cutting through haze surrounding thoughts, forcing focus back onto present moment, reminding ever so clearly how fragile everything truly was, how quickly life could shift, leaving nothing but chaos behind. Everly stood frozen, unable to move, caught between two worlds, each demanding attention, desperately vying for place within heart, struggling reconcile conflicting emotions, battling fiercely, pulling relentlessly toward unknown paths, stretching ahead, beckoning brightly, illuminated by possibilities waiting just beyond reach. Another knock echoed louder this time, stirring resolve deep within, igniting flicker hope buried beneath layers, guilt longing fight back against darkness threatening consume completely, leaving nothing else behind except shadows, lingering faint memories once cherished, held dearly close forevermore. With one last glance at phone still lit bright, casting glow across face, revealing truth hidden beneath layers, uncertainty gripping tightly around heart, squeezing breath from lungs, rendering motion impossible, leaving nothing else behind except shadows, lingering faint memories once cherished, held dearly close forevermore. Finally stepping forward, unlocking door wide open, revealing unexpected visitor standing there waiting patiently, eyes filled anticipation, reflecting hopes, dreams intertwined tightly bound together, holding promise, brighter future awaiting just beyond reach.